We thought we were investigating a crash. Turns out that we were the scene. I know how that sounds. I know what it looks like written down. But if I'm going to tell this at all, I have to start with the truth, not what will go in the report. We flew into the drainage mid-morning, the helicopter blades chopping at air thin enough to taste. The Rockies look peaceful from a distance, but up close they're all serrated edges and sudden drops, the kind of place that decides whether you stay alive, not the other way around. The sheriff beside me pointed out that it was BLM land, Bureau of Land Management, which basically means public in the most technical sense, but not land the people actually use. There's really no trails, really no traffic, especially up there. There's also no reason for a lone aircraft to be flying low enough to hit terrain. I reminded myself coincidences happen. The manual says don't infer intention from impact distribution. Just observe, document, and repeat. That used to calm me. We landed on a shoulder above the wreck and hiked the rest of the way down, boots slipping on frost-stiffened moss. The wind funneled through the narrow gorge, carrying a cold air that felt like it came from inside the mountain. The wreckage lay along the drainage in a strangely neat line, fuselage canted on its side near the far bank, left wing buried deeper upslope, right wing scattered in three contiguous chunks farther down. Nothing screamed staged, not in that obvious way people think of. It was more like the pieces obeyed a logic that I couldn't see. They were too consistent, too tidy. Initial paths looked straightforward enough, the incident investigator in charge, or IIC, said, angling his camera. We'll start high and work our way downhill. Yes, sir, I said. From close up, the strangeness only sharpened. The wing spar fractures were clean, not machined, not suspicious in any overt way, just markedly uniform for a mountainside impact. The prop blades were bent, but still weirdly symmetrical, like they'd met resistance that pushed evenly across both. I wrote the notes. I wrote them neutrally, but my pencil hovered longer than it should have. Something about the orderliness nagged. Overthinking already? One of the specialists teased me. Just being thorough, I said. The truth was, things were adding up too fast. Accidents are messy. This felt prearranged by someone who understood what messy should look like. We cataloged for hours. No bodies, no obvious blood, no drag marks. The cabin was burned, but selectively. Patches of intense heat among untouched corners. The tail number was blistered from fire, but legible enough to trace. By the time the sun began to slide behind the ridge, cold air had pooled at the bottom of the drainage. Fog formed over a creek in a long, low band, creeping through the debris field. We camped upslope on the only flat ground we could find. No fire for site integrity. Night came very quickly. Around 2 a.m., I woke to footsteps behind my tent. Slow, deliberate. Rocked dirt to needles. Someone shifting their weight like they weren't sure of the ground. My heart pounded in my chest. I listened intently, but only heard faint footsteps. Maybe one of our guys out to pee. I didn't want to think about the alternatives. I held my breath. A long pause, then one more step, farther away this time, toward the trees. The wind picked up and carried the sound with it, smearing it into darkness. It took me 2 hours to fall back asleep. In the morning, nobody admitted to walking around. No one had heard the footsteps either. As I walked away from camp to pee in the bushes, I noticed a faint footprint behind a gnarled stand of trees. They weren't pronounced enough, nor was there a path, but they looked too new. When I mentioned prints behind the cluster of trees, fresh enough that the dew still darkened the edges, everyone stiffened but pretended not to. The sheriff looked longest, jaw tightened, then simply said, "Could be old, could be hunters." but his tone didn't match the words. Our lukewarm instant coffee did nothing to brighten the feeling of that morning. By noon, we had the tail number confirmed. Registration canceled 8 months prior. No re-registration. The FAA rep on the sat phone didn't know why. Might have been sold overseas, he said. Paperwork doesn't always show up where it should. TRACON, or the radar facility handling regional traffic in that area, had nothing on the aircraft for the last known day it could have flown. Denver Central had nothing either. No flight plan, no air traffic control contact, no fuel receipts anywhere near Colorado. But maintenance logs from Texas showed an inspection less than 6 months earlier. Planes don't fly themselves here to die. We worked the site again the second day. Then we found the first camera. Tucked under the brush, camouflaged casing, lens pointed directly at the fuselage. No brand, no SD card, no weathering. Then the second camera. Then a third deeper in the trees. The sheriff's voice went thin. No one comes out here. No one. One camera could have been a coincidence. 2 was not. 3 made it clear that this was deliberate. I recall feeling on edge at that point. Our next discovery nearly pushed me into panic. On a more extended walk of the perimeter, we found the buried motion sensor. Sealed plastic, looked new. Custom hardware. It didn't look like some cheap motion unit. This looked well built, expensive, deliberate. Someone had wired a perimeter around this site and around us. You think they're recording us? One of our specialists asked. No, I said before thinking. These aren't storage units. They're for real-time monitoring. Everyone looked at me. The wind moved through the trees with a hollow, resonant sound, the kind that feels directional even when it isn't. That night, no one slept well. I heard the footsteps again, or maybe imagined them. Branches shifted softly, rhythmically, like someone steadying themselves against the trunks as they moved. I told myself it was just wind and nerves. The kind of sound that bounces down a canyon wall and lands behind you instead of where it came from. Morning came cold, with the fog settled thick in the drainage. While we were prepping the fuselage for sling extraction, I saw a glint high in a spruce tree. Not sunlight off debris, something steadier, reflective. I walked toward it without calling anyone yet. My boots crackled on frost. The light winked again. Up close, I saw it clearly. A mirror. A rectangular, hand-sized mirror placed carefully in the crook of a branch 8 feet up. Clean, uncracked, no fingerprints. Angled, not randomly, directly toward the wreck, and unnervingly toward our campsite. Not a shard, not a part of an aircraft, an object chosen for what it can do. Reflect light, signal, and watch. Guys? My voice didn't sound like mine. You'll want to see this. The sheriff climbed up beside me. When he saw it, his whole posture changed. The controlled, laconic mountain lawman routine cracked. This wasn't hikers, he said quietly. This wasn't anyone passing through. He swallowed, looked around the woods like they meant look back. Whoever did this was really thorough, or came back while we were here. The IIC approached, his jaw clenched. We need to document it and get ready to leave. Leave? I asked, my throat suddenly dry. Leave what, exactly? If there's a transmission system, there has to be a receiver, a repeater, something nearby. We should sweep. No, he cut me off. We're not wandering around the woods. We don't have personnel for that. But someone set this up, I said. Someone staged. I stopped myself. Staged what? He asked, sharply. I lowered my voice. This doesn't feel like a crash site. It feels like someone assembled this place just for us. Like they wanted to lure us here to watch us. To I trailed off. The wind chose that moment to push up the drainage, rolling cold air over us so fast the fog rippled like skin. Nobody spoke. The sheriff finally broke the silence. The people that called this in, he said they were hiking. They reported the wreck. We asked what they were doing, said they were up on a quick trip, but dispatch never asked any more questions and never confirmed it. They didn't give us their names either. Or they did, but they were probably fake. We need to leave, he followed. I clumsily climbed the tree and grabbed the mirror with a gloved hand. We loaded what we could for extraction. I kept glancing at the tree line, half expecting a face in the branches, half expecting the mirror to tilt again on its own. When the helicopter lifted the fuselage in a sling, fog swirled beneath it like something alive. I watched the wreck rise away, and for a moment, I felt ridiculous, paranoid. But then I looked back into the woods and felt the hair on my arms stand up. We weren't alone out there. We never had been. Back at the office, wrapped in fluorescent light and procedure, things should have felt normal again, but they didn't. Maintenance reports showed no meaningful degradation. Metallurgical exams mirrored textbook diagrams too well. The fracture on the wing spar matched a training sample down to the secondary crack. The tail cone buckling looked composited from multiple reference photos. That plane had never crashed. Someone had disassembled it, moved it up there, and lured us to it. I sat in my cubicle long after everyone left, lit only by monitor glow, studying the side-by-sides. Real crashes surprise you. They twist, they deviate, they invent new ways to fail. This one felt like someone copying answers out of the back of the book. We never found the hikers, never found who bought the plane, never identified the hardware and the cameras. The mirror went into evidence, but no one knew what to call it or what to do with it. Eventually, the sheriff stopped returning calls. Can't blame him. I kept going through the raw photos. In the wide shots, I kept catching shapes in the fog, vertical shadows between trees, silhouettes that disappeared when zoomed in. Probably tricks of contrast. Probably nothing. Probably. The official report lists the cause as controlled flight into terrain for undetermined reasons. Clean, clinical, non-committal. But I keep thinking of the mirror, the cameras, the ground sensor, the footsteps around our tents, the wreck that behaved like a training model, or a trap laid out on a remote mountainside. People assume the horror is the crash, the burned metal, the wreckage. For me, it's the fact that someone lured us and studied us studying it. That someone watched us walk through that staged disaster with our checklists and gloves and cameras and thought, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to see. I'm more terrified by the fact that I have no idea what they wanted. Some nights, when the office is empty, I still scroll through the photos. Sometimes it feels like the tree line shifted between the shots, like the same dark shape is standing just out of focus in more than one frame, angled toward us. It's probably nothing. That's what I tell myself. But I can't shake that sense that the drainage wasn't a crash site at all. It was a classroom, or a laboratory, or a trap designed to record how we respond. We thought we were investigating a wreck. We were the data set. And whoever was watching never showed themselves, which means somewhere they're still watching.